It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And now it's time for my favorite part of the show, wherein I guess what's in Tim's background. And I'm going to say, Tim, that you've got framed already your brand new lease for your penthouse apartment on Park Avenue in Manhattan for $9 a month, rent controlled. They're flooding out, but you knew when to buy. Am I right about that?
No, actually, no.
Okay.
It's I'm here in the training module for the Fordo nuclear plant run.
What is that actually? What are you trying to depict?
That's the exhaust port on the Death Star.
Right. Now, I actually saw one of your tweets because I do follow you on Twitter. This whole dropping 30,000-pound bombs into ventilator shafts. They didn't even need the bunker buster. They went right down the ventilator shaft. It's you think anyone that's seen at least one Star Wars movie, because I think there were maybe three with the same plot, is you don't leave your ventilator shaft vulnerable. Yeah, there you go. So I mean, what could you do? Like drop a hand grenade down and basically cause a fire, and then everything else detonates?
Yeah, probably. That was actually the Dirty Dozen. That's what they did. They did hand grenade. If you remember, that was the hand grenades down the ventilator shaft. But
the Dirty Dozen is always a metaphor that I use, and I didn't actually see the movie, but so correct me if I'm wrong on this. For having voted for Trump. I mean, sometimes you got to fight fire with fire, or you got to deal with these kinds of people, and look what Trump has done. So it gets local now too. John Cass, right? He's former Tribune, the successor to Mike Royko. Did a hell of a job.
Fired for what did he do? He
was just let go because the Tribune's turning into a shopper.
But there was something in particular. There was a stance he took.
I know there was a controversy, but no, it was all just part of a buyout. So, but he's been on. He has his own website or whatever now, and occasionally subs on WIND radio in the mornings. And he had a column that was seen actually by my heroes at Commentary Magazine. That's the podcast that I plagiarize from all the time. Sure. And Abe Greenwald writes for that. And so imagine my surprise when I see John Cass's name mentioned, and Abe Greenwald's taking him to task and saying, saying because John basically said the neocons are upset that we didn't have regime change. They're mad or something like that. And Noah Rothman, another neocon, all those Jews, what we are. Sure. And Greenwald, on the odd assumption that the so-called neocons must be depressed by the fact that the biggest critic of their program has done the thing they've wanted for 20 years. I mean, and John Cass couldn't be more wrong. We're thrilled. We thanked God for Donald. Donald Trump said, "We love you, God." We said, "Thank God for Donald Trump for what he did." So I mean, he's just totally off. He's got to vilify the neocon somehow. I get that, and he's desperate for any kind of attention, as we all are, I guess. But it just was funny that way. So yeah,
at least 20 years we've been waiting for this, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I remember Dan Proft and I used to interview John Bolton regularly. We even met him at the 2012 Republican convention, talked about the Oak Ridge Boys with him. He just sat with us, and his mantra was, "We got to bomb the bomb." And then of course, we bomb it. And what's the first thing that Jonah Goldberg, and I'll even take my fellow neocons to task on this a little bit, because Jonah Goldberg, he tweeted a picture of Bolton, like thrilled. And of course, it's kind of like, in your face, Trump, you just did what Bolton did. And I'm want to go ixnay on that, Jonah, because We're thrilled that Donald Trump did this. We're absolutely thrilled. And we don't have to rub it in his face that he did what we wanted to have happen. And just back to the Dirty Dozen thing. I mean, sometimes they do things. Sometimes it blows back on you. But I mean,
I think that desire to see that. I think that desire to see this in Iran kept Mike Love in royalties for several more years than would have been normal.
There we go. And I think Trump tweeted out, something to bomb Iran. I mean, it's which it's not very presidential, which is fine with me. Okay, so
neither is the F bomb, but that's
well, that was great too. I mean. I always wanted to quote athletes exactly the way they spoke, so that it was incomprehensible. Some of these guys, and it was always cleaned up. So you didn't clean. So you used Trump directly on that one, and of course, what he said was just to show you how much we're not angry. The neocons aren't angry with him because he kind of blurred the distinction between Iran and Israel for that moment there. Mm-hmm. And it was like, yeah, fine, go ahead, do what you want because we got the bomb. You knocked it out. And of course, then of course you've got these like CNN reports. Well, there's with very low confidence, there's a report that says they didn't get all the uranium. And it's like, I don't know that much about firing a nuclear missile, but I know that it takes more than just having the enriched uranium. It takes, for example, having the casings, the missile launchers and things like that, which they apparently
and one of those digital clocks with all the wires coming out of it. I've seen it on TV.
And worst comes to worst, we get the new 007 with the countdown, and he's got the wire cutters. And that at 007 seconds left, he's going to cut. They did that. That happened several times in Bond movies, but I think only once. This is a great trivia question. Did it actually go right to 007? And I can't tell you which movie it was. I know it happened, but that would be a great Jeopardy answer because
because I'm a electronics geek. I get in my feed. I get schematics. And they showed you how to build a device that will go off if you cut the red wire. So it's pretty simple. 2 resistors, a transistor, and a LED.
You shouldn't waste that on a podcast like this, which is surely for entertainment. Come on, there's a lot of terrorists who would tune into that podcast. So let's go to David Axelrod. David Axelrod had to criticize Marco Rubio for being fawning. David Axelrod, the servile sec def begins his presser on the Iran attack with the required fawning. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no question, Mr. Axelrod, under either the Dobert or Fry rules, legal rules on determining who an expert is, that you qualify as an expert on fawning. Nobody did it better than David Axelrod. So yeah, okay, fine. That's all they had. That's biting around the edges on this stuff.
His fawning would have shamed Disney.
So, all right, what else do we have here on this? And then there's Geraldo, of course. Was this before?
I think it would have to be, wouldn't it?
No, but Geraldo said Netanyahu has suckered Trump and the USA into another forever war with Iran. So, that was posted on June 21st. That's almost a week ago. It kind of hasn't happened, Geraldo, but I agreed with him at the time because it's easy for me in hindsight, and I thought it was the worst sucker play since Geraldo seduced America into inspecting Al Capone's vault. I mean, if only we'd had bunker busters then to bomb the vault and prevent the colossal waste of time of his show. I'll never get my April 21st, 1986 back. So thank you, Geraldo. And I think Bill Clinton,
if you get in his defense,
Yeah.
The war went on for 12 days, and by Israeli standards, that is forever.
It certainly is. Now, of course, we didn't enter it till like the 5th day, I guess. I don't even know what day we entered. But yeah, you're right. It was a little long. It was a little long. Although, I know did we go over this? I was playing golf last year with an Egyptian dentist, real nice guy. Okay, and this was
Sure.
and he's in my cart, and he's going like that. He was going to be named after given some kind of Egyptian name, which meant warrior. And his father wanted to do it, and his mother didn't want to do it. His father wanted to do it because of what happened in the 7-Day War. And I'm thinking to myself, I thought it was always called the 6-Day War. And then a few weeks later, somebody mentioned, I don't know why I found this out, that Israel took out the Egyptian Air Force. I think it was a preemptive strike. Correct me if I'm wrong on all this. And then the 6-Day War happened. So if you're an Egyptian, you got to look at that as the start of the war. Otherwise, you're really embarrassed if you get defeated before the war even starts. Anyway, the guy's mother wouldn't let him be named after.
Well, yeah, and leave it to the Jews to try to talk you down a day, huh?
Yeah, of course. There you it. All right. So, quickly. So Bill Clinton had said, Mr. Netanyahu has wanted to fight Iran because that way he can stay in office forever and ever. But I think we should be trying to defuse it, and I hope President Trump will do that. I guess this was before we bombed him. And, all I can say, I love, hearing Bill, but I mean, wasn't there a blue dress that he could ejaculate on instead? I mean, do we really need to hear what Bill Clinton had to say? Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Yeah, when Trump said that, dropped that F-bomb, my immediate reaction was, well, hey, you can drop the F-bombs as long as you drop the 30,000-pound bombs. That's fine. Throw one in there. That's fine. But it sounded like he was having a tantrum at that moment. And then all I can say about that is, thank God for his tantrum. I love that.
Well, I remember, I'm old enough to remember that it was a shock when those Nixon tapes were released, and they found out that President Nixon was rather fond of that word.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a national scandal that the president would use such language. But here we are. I don't know if culture, society is coarsened to that amount, or it's just Trump. He says it's like, well, yeah.
Now who's being naive, Kay? I mean, Trump just didn't spontaneously generate. He is somewhat, yes, he is sui generis. There's no question about that. But he's part of the culture. He's part of our coarsening culture. No question about that. I mean, just recognize the fact. I mean, I basically live on Twitter, and it is a sewer. Okay, I mean. There's you can't help the boobs, and I'm not talking about mental capacity, the boobs that are shoved in your face,
really,
every other thing, just because I looked at something at Paige Spiranek once or a dozen times. All of a sudden the algorithm is about
algorithm has you tagged.
Golfers. Yeah.
It's the algorithm for me, it thinks I want to look at power tools and half-naked girls dancing, and I don't know why it thinks I want to look at power tools.
And what are you doing with the power tools? That's what I want to know. So, and plus there's a lot of anti-Semitic stuff too, which I have not. I mean, growing up, I grew up in Skokie, but it was in the 1960s. I mean, World War II was kind of in the past. And, there was a little bit of anti-Semitism, but gosh, I think it's just a new generation of anti-Semites. We did forget, never again means, we'll see about it. And of course, nothing is a greater illustration of that than that the city of New York, which has a million Jews in it. It's the largest Jewish population in the world. just elected or has done tantamount to electing a socialist Muslim.
Yeah,
and
who is named after the fortune-telling machine in Big.
Right. So, or wasn't there a movie that was called the Adam Sandler was in called The Great Zohan or whatever? It was but yeah, the fortune or that as well. Yeah, I mean,
But I think it's he only got 500,000 votes, so
okay.
I think it's just the kids. I think the kids want someone that they can relate to, and it's
The problem is that just the way New York goes, the Democrat is a shoo-in after winning the primary. I mean, it's like Chicago. Curtis Sliwa, they're asking Curtis Sliwa, please drop out so that the corrupt Adams can win and be the mayor again. That's how bad it is. But yeah, I mean, this Mamdani. Let's see what this. I jumped over the B block here. Just a heads up. Okay, thank you very. I didn't realize. I thought that this wasn't the B block. All right, we'll hold off on this. Just a second. Well, it's a little tease. Let us go back here. Oh, sure. To the Earth hippie, Chris. So then there's Megyn Kelly. All right, and Megyn Kelly basically was doing, or I don't want to say she plagiarized, but she did the same shtick that we talked about last week that John Leibowitz, nee Stewart, had done, which was to pile together a bunch of Netanyahu sound bites without any context, making it sound like he's the boy who cried Bruce Wolf and has been warning about the Iranian bomb for decades. But there was intervening things that happened, like Israel discovering, you even mentioned this last week, discovering all the papers that Iran had, all their plans, Israel taking other activity in there. I could, give you a website.
Well, here's the thing. It's just
debunk that.
When they say he's been saying 2 weeks away for the past 20 years. Yeah, the reason why that doesn't make any sense to you is because you don't understand how it works. Once uranium is enriched up to 60%, it is 2 weeks from weapons grade. They have been stockpiling 60% uranium for the past 20 years. So yes, they have been 2 weeks away for the past 20 years. And the people that think that this is just shows how ignorant that we are for believing that they have nuclear weapons. They're the same people that's saying the doomsday clock is 5 minutes to midnight for the past 40 years.
Right. And they keep going back and forth too on what actually Trump did. On the one hand, he didn't do anything, and they still are about to go nuclear. But on the other hand, he did do something, and he shouldn't have done that. Eric Swalwell, it's a Swalwell.
You got a fang stuck in your throat.
So he simultaneously, he had called, and Charlie Cook, National Review, pointed this out. He had called for Trump to ask Congress for approval to set out the parameters of what he wanted to do, which is basically to telegraph what we were going to do. Okay, and you could understand there's an argument to be made that you got to go to Congress to get approval. But then after this all happened, he was one of the guys saying, oh, and they still have a lot of uranium that they moved out of there because he telegraphed what we did. So, I mean, you got to pick your position here. Are you happy that he telegraphed it, or are you unhappy that you telegraphed it, or are you just a hack, which is what Eric Swalwell is?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you tell a guy who's been sleeping with a Chinese spy for 10 years about an imminent secret attack on a nuclear facility? Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
I think the Constitution requires that you do that.
Right. Oh, and then Tammy Duckworth had an interesting tweet. She was ripping Trump for doing this. Our senator, Trump bombing Iran was illegal and unjustified. I ran for Congress to make sure our leaders considered the true costs of war and I will be in the Senate standing on my titanium legs, demanding answers from Trump. Now, what I find interesting is that it seemed to recall only a few short years ago that Tucker Carlson was questioning Senator Duckworth's patriotism, and now it seems like they're on the same side. I mean, I haven't been this happy since Dennis Rodman joined the Bulls. I mean, it's just great that
First, don't you have a great Tammy Duckworth joke?
Why don't you just shut up right now? Do you want this to be the last podcast, everybody? Because I can pull the plug on this so damn fast. And then you're just going to be sitting there with Tim doing HVAC podcast, which will skyrocket in the ratings, make you $1 billion. And then for fun, you can tell Tammy Duckworth jokes.
$29.95.
For what?
That's what a duck's worth.
I thought you were going to say you could get some titanium for that, but okay, all right. Anyhow, where are we? Are we what segment are we in? Oh, still in this Oh, Governor J.B. Pritzker. I feel like red buttons when he never had a dinner. Just going right through the list right here. So Pritzker, so what do they say? I mean, what does a Jew like Pritzker say when Donald Trump, his nemesis, and for all I know, Pritzker decided to run for a third term for governor because he just realizes he can't win anything now with all the popularity that Trump has among a lot of people. Anyway.
Well, I think it's AOC anyway. I think
right. No
I think AOC is a perfect candidate to replace Kamala.
I agree. She fits right in there. A lot of people are comparing this to it's like it was going from Humphrey to McGovern. It's going from Biden to and with a stop at Kamala to AOC. So Pritzker tweeted, following the escalation in Iran, I'm keeping a close eye in consultation with federal authorities and the Illinois State Police. There are no known threats to our state at this time. I'll continue to receive briefings as we remain vigilant to ensure the safety of Illinoisans. All I can say, thanks for being on top of it, Governor. Now you can go eat a piece of pie or 2 or 4. You son of a bitch.
Or poke yourself with that Ozempic needle. So, why would Iran attack Illinois? It's Pritzker's doing a great job destroying it all on his own.
Well, we're kind of like wannabes. Remember the anthrax threat? You remember when that happened and the news anchors in New York were getting anthrax, like Peter Jennings, those kinds of people. And so we immediately started to get more security, like even at Channel 32 where I was at, because we had to protect Walter Jacobson. And I mean, it was to the point where when I would come into the security vestibule in the morning, every morning, we not only, and I used to get in there like at 4 a.m, we not only had one security guard who would be asleep, now we had 2 security guards asleep. And so anyway, that's the way. But you think Pritzker could have just said, hey, my hat's off to you, Trump. You just saved our frickin' asses is what you did. And, but we're going to take care of it. We're on top of it. Maybe we'll put everybody in masks. That way the public can't be distinguished from the terrorists. We'll be here, whatever. All right. When we come back, maybe we gotta get back. We gotta get at Pope Leo too. I don't want to let that guy off the hook either. Pope Leo, the XIV. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. Okay, so back to the New York election. It's just New York. Personally, I like to be in America, and New York is not America. Pardon my West Side Story, which was about New York, but okay. I think the first thing that Mayor, what's his name? Mamdani. Whoa. Yeah.
Zarhan.
But by the way, Mamdani praised Mangione. You know about that, right? I mean, who got killed in New York.
Wow.
He praised him. So, I'm thinking, should we bomb New York? That's a good question right now.
No, I think we just have to put a fence around it and turn it into a prison.
Okay. All right. So maybe the first act of Mayor Mamdani should be to confiscate Howard Stern's wealth and then order everyone to wear their underwear on the outside, which is not as good as some of the stuff Stern did. Did he make a stripper dunk her head in a toilet? I seem to recall that. But anyway, that would do it. But somebody told me that Stern now lives in Palm Beach. Funny that he would.
Yeah.
He'd be an expatriate like that.
Well, I mean, anybody who's making a lot of money that can work remote doesn't live in New York.
Right. You would think. I'm one of the, I actually did a broadcast for WLS radio from New York. So I did the remote from New York. Yeah.
So you went into the WABC?
Went into WABC. It was kind of cool to do that.
How did the studio look?
It looked nice. And yeah, it was historic. It was really good.
Because I went into WMAL in Washington, D.C., and what a dump.
Oh, really?
Oh, man. It's actually the nicest studios you can see are usually public broadcasting.
Oh, sure. They got the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they won't have it for long, though.
Wow. That's what they say. They couldn't even eliminate that. They what do they do? Cut it down to $1 billion, only $1 billion or something like that. Or
okay. Yeah. Well, little steps, I guess. So, yeah, it's well, oh, you know what? I imagine like what are there 1 million Jews who live there? It's like 12% of the population. So I think there's New York's about 8 million. So, but I think most of them are elderly, and come the Intifada, they will flee their rent-controlled apartments and be replaced by Columbia protesters. Which reminds me, you're not watching Poker Face, right?
I am not.
Okay, it's on Peacock, and it's about this woman, pretty redhead who
was in prison in Orange Is the New Black.
Yeah, she was, and she's she can tell when anybody's lying, and she goes from one homicide to the next, discovering who's lying about it, and it's kind of fun. But it has a liberal mindset. How she's constantly quoting, Hunter Thompson or whoever, and but it really did in the latest episode did a number on the con of rent control. Okay, and I mean, it's a spoiler alert. You're not going to watch it. The con who is conning a grandmother-daughter combo who are conning the system to keep the apartment gets conned herself by our heroine. It's kind of meta layered there. But anyway, I just like the political statement that rent control is such baloney. And now this guy, Mamdani, it's not enough that they already have. He's going to do that. Oh, yeah. Chris is saying Jewish congressmen endorse Mamdani for New York City mayor. Chuck Schumer, I think, came out. Well, Chuck Schumer is in danger, right? I guess AOC is probably going to get he's afraid of AOC getting his Senate seat. And Jerry Nadler.
Chuck Schumer's so upset he forgot to hydrate.
So yeah, right. There are always turncoats and collaborators among the Jewish population.
What is Jerry Nadler? Is he a congressman or is he?
Yeah, he's a congressman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did?
But
he supports Mamdani.
Gary, guess he's come out in favor of him. But yeah, I'm just so he's going to have what people sleeping on the sub. They already sleep on the subways. So they're going to put cots in the subways. And I know they're going to open up a government grocery store. We know well that works.
I cannot wait for that. That is going to be delightful.
It's going to be beautiful. Apparently, they're citing there, and I forgot what town it's in. There's is it a North Carolina town? I forget, where apparently the public grocery store seems to work. However, it's heavily reliant on private contributions and private volunteers. So
don't you guys remember Brandon Johnson was going to do this, and then he scrapped it about a year in because it was just not viable.
Right. How far did he get? Did he actually start stocking shelves and stuff?
No, they brought it in front of the all the aldermen, and there was split on it, but he never got it off the ground.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, it's like socialism. It's never really been tried. So let's see what happens when when Mamdani tries to do that. The beautiful thing
I predict what will happen is that it will be impossible for them to beat the prices of the greedy capitalist grocery stores.
Well, especially if they're paying $30 an hour to the bag boy.
Oh, that's going to be that's going to be interesting too. Is are they going to have $30 an hour bag boys, or is it going to be complete self checkout? Is it?
Well, they may as well cut out the middleman when you're stealing. I mean,
why even bother having a checkout? What am I thinking?
Just come on in, take the food, and go. As a matter of fact, if they were any good, they would just have DoorDash deliveries to wherever the rioters are. Why make people riot? It's embarrassing to have to do that. Why not just deliver the food directly to them and whatever they want too? None of this, healthy stuff. No kale and whatever.
Here's a question to put out to the audience. I don't know this, but can you use DoorDash if you're using Snap cards?
You ought to be able to.
Sure. Why not? Why not?
Totally. Now here's the thing. The DoorDash drivers are going to be making $30 an hour too. That's why I say you got to confiscate Howard Stern's wealth, and all of Wall Street as well. Somebody was mentioning how Wall Street's not just the financial sector, with all the big business that rules the world. That with all the people that work on Wall Street, there's a lot of businesses in the area, local businesses that rely on Wall Street for commerce. And I mean, not the
you mean like lunch counters and that?
Yeah, well, and more than that, there's a big supporting business
meth dealers.
Yeah, so
because there's no way you can keep up with that energy without a little bit of meth,
right? And the financial sector starts moving out, at least in part, from there. It's going to tank. But now you think that New York will come to its senses in November, even though precedent would say otherwise. But on the other hand, this is unprecedented, so who knows what's going to happen. But I'm just I'm leery about anything.
Here's what I think is going to happen between now and November. Is that when it occurs? I'm guessing.
I guess
now and November. Yeah. Is that his handlers are not going to let him be the Mamdani he has been. They're not going to let him get out there and say, I support Luigi Mangione and I support socialism and we need free grocery stores. He's not going to be able to say all the wacky stuff between now and then.
It's going to be tough, though. But he wouldn't back away from globalize the intifada. But what does that really mean? Of course.
but that's what I'm saying. He will have to now. And I think with him not making headlines like he was, I think a lot of his support will forget that the election's coming.
It's possible. How much I hate to give credit to another comedian. Okay. You're familiar with this Jimmy Fallon guy who's on Gutfeld? So he said, we've got the Sharia socialist, but that's the good thing is that there'll be no more congestion tolls when he bans women drivers. Okay. So that's, I kind of like that one. And then somebody else said, and it wasn't even a comedian, so it just said, how is he going to arrest Bibi Netanyahu if he defunds the police? So, but maybe he'll send a social worker out to talk to Bibi. Yeah. And
like, Bibi, did you have a hard time with your father?
Bibi had Bibi has this messianic complex. He thinks he's there to save the Jewish people. You don't mess with the Zohan, unrated version, Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler, apparently not too happy about what.
Kind of looks like him.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that's the problem. I have a kid who looks like Osama bin Laden. Okay.
Wow.
Well, when my kid had a beard and a mustache, I mean, it was like I said, just don't go to the airport. I mean, he was just he looked like Osama. Osama happened to be. Now I'm gonna, wander into Bill Maher territory. Remember when he called the hijackers courageous?
Yeah.
And you didn't dare do that. I get it, especially
Even
after.
though I agreed with him.
Right, you don't say it though. And but he did, and he got into trouble for that. But now I forget what I was about to get.
Does your son have a foot-long beard, though? I mean,
yeah. Well, you know what I was going to say? Osama actually was kind of a good-looking guy. So, but he's always portrayed as murdering Americans, and so he's not. And I'm glad he's dead. And that's a good way to end this segment. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And just to emphasize the point, I'm glad that Osama bin Laden is dead. Okay, now let's move on. And so let's take on an easier target. The Pope. Okay, so what did the Pope have to say about all this? We have from Pope Leo the 14th.
I think that's your cue, Chris.
We have his tweet, the Pope's tweet. But basically, he was not so hot about us bombing Iran. He said, war does not solve problems. On the contrary, it amplifies them and inflicts deep wounds on the histories of peoples, which takes generations to heal, blah, blah, blah. To paraphrase Edwin Starr, war, good God, y'all. What is it good for? A lot, including it freed your ancestors, Edwin, in the United States of America. What I want to hear about from the Pope is, hey, what do you think of that punk who insulted that player's mother at Sox Park? Now, that's something that the Pope would be an expert on. Did you hear about this one?
Yeah, I did.
At Rate Field, that some player on the other team started crying, went to the mound after a fan insulted.
Wait. In baseball?
There is crying, not among women, but among Major League Baseball players. He was injected from Rate Field after heckling the Diamondbacks second baseman Ketel Marte.
Injected. That's the perfect way. He was right. Injected from White Sox Park. That's
about his late mother. Now, here's the thing. I mean, Chris, do we know what the fan actually said? And by the way, the fan was apologetic afterwards. 22-year-old guy. And he was very apologetic.
All the people that heard it wouldn't recite it like it was that bad, but it was about his mother died in a car crash.
He did actually reference the car crash.
Yeah, but it was 8 years ago. What kind of wuss is crying about something 8 years later? And some.
No, wait a minute.
I'm arguing for this kid not to be banned, Bruce. I'm taking this.
Okay. I think I'm on more solid ground, saying that Osama bin Laden was, you look at him in the right light, was a good-looking guy.
Heckling the ball players when they're like getting ready to.
You don't insult. You don't heckle them about their mother dying in a car accident.
I mean, maybe
you don't do.
Maybe didn't Jimmy Failure just kind of say that she shouldn't have been driving in the first place?
That's a nice attempt at a save, but I think it trickled in over the crease.
Also, he's 22 years old. He's an idiot. Second,
well, he's an idiot. He was probably drunk.
Those are scout seats where it's $550 seats with the free buffet and open bar.
Yeah. He was, and supposedly he was very apologetic. But if he was referencing that, yeah, he deserved. And what I saw from the Sox was that he was suspended indefinitely. I mean, he's lucky he doesn't get a lifetime
MLB
ban.
came out the next day and banned him from all major league ballparks
indefinitely.
Yes.
Wow.
Right.
I've got a heckling someone's mother story about White Sox Park.
Okay. All right. Sure.
It was years ago. The Sox were playing the Tigers, and myself and another Detroit buddy went to see the Sox play the Tigers, and of course we were rooting for the Tigers.
Sure.
And he said, there's a fielder right underneath us where we were sitting, and he said, let's heckle that guy. And they looked up the number. He goes, "What's his name?" He goes, so we look it up. He goes, "Oh, it's Sammy Sosa." It's like, oh, okay, let's look at it. We're going through our guy there. What do we know about Sammy Sosa that we can heckle him about? And I said, "Oh, he's from the Dominican Republic." I go, "I got it." And I lean over the railing and I go, "Hey, Sammy, miss another one and you're going to be cutting cane with your mom back home."
Oh my God. Did he react?
No, but he was replaced for the next inning.
You knocked Sammy Sosa.
Maybe he was crying in the dugout.
He was crying in the dugout. And I got to tell you, he's still crying to this day. But the Cubs brought him back this last weekend.
Yep.
And, I'm wondering, when are they going to retire his jersey? I'm thinking June the 3rd, 2028, which would be the 25th anniversary of the corked bat incident. When he was caught with the corked bat.
Or you find the first day that he started doing steroids, which is when he went to the Cubs, because when he was with the Sox, he weighed about 160 pounds.
Right. Everybody, there was so much sucking up to Sammy Sosa last weekend. And he was in the broadcast booth with Pat and Ron. I was wondering if Sammy was old enough to wear the adult diapers that are advertised on that broadcast. But I'm surprised that he's able to even be on a broadcast, because last time I heard Sammy, I think he was telling Congress that he couldn't speak English. But okay, he's okay.
Bruce, has he stopped doing the bleaching treatments on his face? Look, remember?
Oh yeah, he's a black man again. There's no question about that. Yeah, he's. I think that was part of the deal with the Ricketts family. You come back as a black man, okay? And we'll think about retiring your jersey. And it's you know what? You know how I never give at 670 the Scoros any credit? But I happened to hear them Monday morning, and there were a couple of the people, the producer and one of the hosts were like, thrilled about, or happy about Sammy coming back. But Mike Mulligan, one of the hosts, said, "I'm sorry. This doesn't fly." And thank goodness somebody said it, because it's ludicrous. And here's what it is. I think the older you are, and Wrigley Field is populated by the same kids. They go from Wrigley Field to protesting at Columbia University to voting for Mamdani. It's the same people. And I'm thinking they don't remember. Here's a picture, if you're watching here, Sammy before, Sammy after. And
wow.
So
it's nice to know that Michael Jackson's doctor is still working.
Yeah. In 1990, and if you're old enough, you remember that Sammy Sosa wasted your 1998. I was so invested in that. I wasn't even a Cub fan, but the home run battle between him and McGuire was so riveting. You couldn't wait to see them bat. And then the whole thing was bull. Absolute bull. Pardon my Eddie Schwartz.
It was like wrestling.
Yeah. And, but at least wrestling, and a lot of people, Gaylord Perry, cheated. We all knew that he was doing that. Okay. I think the Naked Gun movie was Enrico Palazzo, the umpire, comes out to the mound and takes out his, some of the tools that you use all the time, power drills and standers and things like that are in his pockets. But we actually were bamboozled by Sammy and Mark McGuire. And apparently we will be fooled again, because people just don't learn from history. So that's the story with Samala. And the Pope, not so good, Popey. I don't really like how you came down there. However, I will say this. There's another thing. I think this comes from Mary Chauvelin. This tweet has a tweet of the Pope, like in a cornfield or wheat field, where the transmitter for the Vatican radio station was. He was inspecting the transmitter. Do we have that one, Chris? Because it's just a great visual. I don't know. It looks like a wheat field, and I don't even know if you see the actual transmitter for the Vatican station.
So it's not really a emitter.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's see. Yeah. So yeah, he's standing there in a wheat field. Great photo by Vatican media of Pope Leo's visit today to the Vatican Radio Transmission Center outside of Rome. I heard that the station is round-the-clock religion, but on Sunday mornings, the FCC requires them to play classic rock. I don't know if we could get that. Anyway, so should we go to Johnny Cadillac's tweet? He wanted people to say what was the poster that was on their bedroom wall when they were kids. And Mike North said Raquel Welch, which is, what a sane person would have said. Me, and I think I've mentioned this before, it was a poster of the presidents of the United States.
Wow.
which is why I can still recite them in order. And I think I've done this before on the show.
You'd go to sleep counting presidents?
But it's, yeah. And
close your eyes and envision George Washington jumping over a fence. And then...
Yeah, right. And it kind of looked like a sheep, with the powdered wig. And but I could only name them, even to this day, I can only name them through LBJ, because that's where the poster ended. Was LBJ. So I'm a little bit blurry about we did elect a black president a couple of times, as I recall. Tim, did you have a poster when you were
Yeah, I think it was the space station from 2001. The big rotating space station.
And did you go to sleep with the Blue Danube Waltz being played?
Yeah, imagining it slowly rotating in the plane.
Dun, 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 blung, 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 which Kubrick got because, the copyright had expired about 150 years earlier, I guess. So.
Was not aware. And then he went on to do Clockwork Orange, which was all Beethoven.
Yeah, no, he knew how to do it.
Score of it.
He knew how,
he was spending so much. Just that one scene of the guy jogging around the inside of the spaceship cost like $30 million just for that one shot where he's like jogs on the ceiling.
Totally. We should close with WGN-TV had a tweet about the police in the city are want to make sure that the Pride Parade is safe. And do we actually have that tweet there? Let's see if we got it. Yeah, WGN-TV News: Chicago police to reveal safety measures for Pride Parade. So my question: what are they handing out condoms? I mean, what is the? All right.
Meanwhile, because of the ongoing hostilities, the Iranian Pride Parade will be shortened to only 5 stories.
Hey, Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.